Is this America's worst commuter rail? We'll be the judge of that. Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Tom and you're watching a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. So I am at Fridley Station in Minnesota, just a few miles north of downtown Minneapolis. It's November, but it's 60 degrees out. Yesterday was 76 and yeah, something tells me that's not what the weather is like there right now. Now, living in Chicago, I just kind of assumed that the Heritage Corridor, operated by Metra, had the worst timetable of any commuter rail in the United States. What could be worse than 3 round trips a day, weekdays only? Well, here in Minnesota, I may have found the answer to that. In 2022, the Northstar commuter rail only runs 2 trains per direction. 2 morning trains into Minneapolis and 2 afternoon trains out of Minneapolis. Now the Northstar line is 40 miles long, connects Big Lake to Target Field in Minneapolis. I'm at Fridley Station, the last stop before Minneapolis, mostly because of that timetable. Like, I have to get back here once I ride the train, and so I had to find a place where it wasn't going to cost me an arm and a leg to travel back. So obviously 2 trains a day is pretty terrible, and frequency is really important to me. So what we're going to do in this video is basically decide if Northstar deserves the title of worst commuter rail in the United States. So today we're basically going to be a jury. So Northstar is accused of the crime of having terrible frequencies, and the possible sentence for that is being called America's worst commuter rail. But of course, frequencies aren't the only thing that determine if a train is good or bad. So we're going to look at mitigating factors and aggravating factors while we ride Northstar. And at the end of the video, we'll give our final verdict. Do the aggravating factors confirm that this is America's worst commuter rail? Or are there factors that mitigate it and maybe make it not America's worst commuter rail? When we take a look at Northstar's route, we notice our first aggravating factor. For starters, it's the only route in the entire Twin Cities area. This is an area with 2 major cities, many suburbs, and a population of over 3.5 million. Second, we see that Northstar runs between Big Lake and Target Field in Minneapolis. Service does not extend to St. Cloud, which is a relatively large city that could transform Northstar into more of an intercity route. Passengers between Minneapolis and St. Cloud today have to transfer to a bus at Big Lake. And finally, the Northstar shares its route with Amtrak's Empire Builder for almost the entirety of the journey, yet there are no places to transfer between the two. Passengers along this corridor who would like to take the train to Chicago would have to drive to St. Paul first, or take the light rail at Target Field to St. Paul, but I'm not sure if that works with the departure times. But to be fair, that last point is not really something you can necessarily blame on Northstar. It's Amtrak that decides where they do and don't stop. It's also not the only place where Amtrak trains just blast straight through a state's major city. The area around the station isn't very promising either. It's not very pedestrian friendly, caused largely by the massive parking lot. Of course, I've only visited Fridley Station, but a quick look on the map shows me that none of the stations really seem to be situated near the high-density cores of their respective towns. No transit-oriented development, another aggravating factor. The parking lot was completely empty too, but with the low frequencies of the trains, it begs the question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because ridership and frequency influence each other, I'm not including it in my list of factors. Things are about to take a turn for the better at the train station, however, because for a commuter rail station, I was reasonably impressed. Both the east side and the west side of the station are connected by an underground passageway, which seemed clean enough, without the usual smells that plague some American transit systems. This passageway is nice because not only does it protect people from the rough winter weather, it also eliminates a railroad crossing, making it safer to access the station. So while we're in this tunnel, let me just talk a little bit about what Northstar used to be like before the pandemic. There were 6 trains a day per direction, which isn't a lot, but it's much more than what it is now. But because of COVID-19, ridership plummeted. And that's where you see that stuff like having no transit-oriented development and having massive parking lots doesn't really do Northstar any favors. What also doesn't help is severe political opposition in the state. Now, I'm not in any way saying that we need to get rid of Northstar. In this video, I'm really hoping to advocate for expansion. The platforms themselves have waiting areas, passenger information located at multiple locations, and ramps to enable accessible boarding. Interestingly, though it's an island platform, one side is fenced off. I guess with the current schedule, they only really need one side. Good stations are important, and I think Fridley covers all the basics. Let's file it under mitigating factors. I haven't bought a ticket yet, so let's talk about fares. A ticket from Big Lake to Minneapolis costs $6.25, and any stretch between two stations costs $3.25, which is what we'll be paying today. Compared to many other commuter rail systems, I think that that's a very reasonable price to ask. So another mitigating factor. The machine spat out a paper ticket, and these tickets don't have a chip in them. Northstar uses a fleet of Bombardier multi-level cars with a great exterior livery. Let's check out the interior. When you board, you're immediately on the bottom floor. Seating down here is arranged in bays of 4. Towards the other door, we see a multi-purpose area with space to strap down a wheelchair or store your bicycles. A nice route map, and up these steps there's a trash can. Free Wi-Fi, which I didn't try out. Up another half flight of stairs, and we're on the top level, once again with seats in bays of 4. I sat down, and the seats were actually reasonably comfortable. No recline or anything, of course, but for a 40-mile trip, that's not super necessary in my opinion. A few of the bays also have these sturdy tables in the middle, and I was lucky enough to snag one of these seats. Let's go down to the middle level one more time. The seats here have power sockets, which I was surprised to see. Downstairs once again, I noticed another accessibility feature, a wheelchair lift. That way, whether a station has a ramp or not, these trains are accessible. All in all, the train interior certainly isn't the pinnacle of luxury, but it would be completely unfair to say it's the worst in America. I can think of a few other contenders for that one. Now, a little bit about the window views. I ride the train at the butt crack of dawn every day, but there was just something breathtaking about this morning's Minnesota sunrise. For a train enthusiast like me, the morning skies were complemented with a bottomless buffet of BNSF trains. Like take this BNSF Slug, for example, or this row of 40 locomotives. Here, the Amtrak Empire Builder splits off towards St. Paul and Chicago. We continue down a short stub into Minneapolis. In between the lines is a collection of old Milwaukee road cars and a locomotive. A cool sight you can only see from the train. The next main attraction outside was the crossing of the Mississippi River. Once again, the sunrise was timed perfectly. That blue thing on the left is the locomotive. I was riding in the back car today. Now we've reached Minneapolis, let's take a closer look at the trains. The passenger cars are Bombardier multi-levels, like I mentioned before, and the locomotives are MP36PH-3Cs, built by Motive Power. These are very common among American commuter rail systems, but man, these American locomotives and their complicated names. Can I say though that Northstar might just be my favorite livery of any commuter rail? I am loving these colors. Maybe it's me and I've just been around yellow and blue trains too much, but this Northstar paint scheme was really doing it for me. Since I was on the second train of the morning, service to Minneapolis was done for the day. I'm guessing the train at the other platform was the earlier train, and both were going to wait around here all day and then make the 2 afternoon runs out to Big Lake. Glad we didn't take that train though, what with the wrap over the windows and all. Target Field Station is named after the baseball stadium next to it, where the Minnesota Twins play.
Wait, is it named after that Target?
Yeah,
Can we go to Target today?
I mean, I guess. Aw, Target doggo. Transfer from the Northstar to the blue and green line is the easiest thing ever. I've already done it. And I have to say, though you do have to switch floors, this is a very convenient transfer. Imagine a place where commuter rail and metro don't share their stations. How silly would that be? Transfer to light rail, another mitigating factor. So the bus we have to take back to Fridley is Route 10U. That's another 20 minutes or so before that one leaves, but downtown Minneapolis seems like as good a place as any to talk about Northstar. So honestly, both on the trains as well as outside the trains, I could not find anything I didn't like. I thought those Bombardier bi-levels, I like that when you get in, you're immediately on the bottom floor. This makes more of the car accessible to more people. And power sockets, Wi-Fi, which I didn't try. Shoot, I forgot to try the bathrooms. Sorry, guys. Next time. I'm sure they're not that different from other train bathrooms. Ultimately, the functional stations, comfortable and accessible trains, and convenient transfer in Minneapolis, for me personally outweighed the lack of service to Big Lake and even the lack of smart land use around the stations. Don't get me wrong, those are two big issues, and especially the terrible schedule needs to be fixed. Say this was a frequent all-day service, however, and I think more people would see it as a comfortable and convenient service from their suburb to downtown. The trains and stations are there, it's service that needs to be improved. All in all, I haven't been on all the commuter rail systems in the US yet, so I really don't think I can call this one the worst. I simply had a more pleasant experience riding it than I thought I would. The trip back up to Fridley by bus definitely took much longer than the train trip down. Here we are back at Fridley. Is Northstar the worst commuter rail in the United States? No, I really don't think so. 2 trains a day is terrible, and you can see not many people ride it. But you have the relatively high quality stations, decently low fares. So it's not America's best commuter rail, not by a long shot, but I don't think I can say it's the worst. But let's kind of take this negativity and let's turn it around. Tell me in the comments what your favorite commuter rail is here in the United States, or your favorite train wherever you live. Look forward to hearing those. Please subscribe to Trains Are Awesome. Thanks for watching today. I'll be back very soon with more content like this, so we'll see you next time.